Verb, an action plan working to support your child's success. It is an invitation for every family and every school to participate because we can do more together than we can do apart. There is no wrong way to PTA, just as long as you're doing for your child. You can give money by joining and donating. You can volunteer your time and effort, or you can help grow our strength and presence at the local, state, or national level as an advocate for improving your child's education. As the leaders of our local PTAs in New Jersey, you are the front lines of all of this. There are many other groups out there focused on raising money, but PTA is about more than dollars. It's committed to fostering family engagement and student success in every one of our communities. I encourage you to take full advantage of New Jersey PTA's new online resources hub and reach out to us if you need more information. We are here to help you succeed. The Resources Hub can be found on our website at njpta.org. It includes templates, guidebooks, so much more. Definitely, please check it out. Thank you for all you do for your communities. Thank you for what you're doing for your PTA. I know that this is a very hard time to be a leader anywhere, but especially of schools with what's going on in our state and in our country. And I do want to say I appreciate each and every one of you, as do your New Jersey PTA board. We appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Next on our agenda, I'd like to introduce the presenters tonight. As I said, my name is Sharon Roseborough, and I'm Vice President of Leadership Development. Lori Palmer, Lori Palmer, who is our treasurer, New Jersey State PTA treasurer. Ginger Reinhold, she is our New Jersey State PTA secretary. Rosa Chera is our immediate New Jersey PTA past president, and she also serves as our federal legislative chair. And Stephanie Bowe, she is our New Jersey PTA procedures and bylaws chair. Robert Chera, he is our New Jersey PTA member and board services manager. If you call the office, that's who you're going to get on the phone, and he's a wealth of knowledge. So if you ever need anything, Rob is the guy to go to. I just wanted to announce some of our upcoming events. Our New Jersey PTA leadership chat, the first one is this Monday, and that's July 27th. And then we're going to have another one on August 5th. And that's just an opportunity for locals to come on and chat with our PTA leadership. It's only an hour call. So if you have any questions after this training, or if you just have any questions in between, between now and the time that we have our next call, that's the time to come on, and we're available to answer any questions that you have. We also have our New Jersey leadership training. The next one that's scheduled is August 8th, which is a Saturday, and that will begin at 9:30. And then we also have our New Jersey State Convention that's coming up. If you haven't already registered, we encourage you to register. That's August 17th through the 20th. And then we just want to encourage you, we just opened up our resource hub, and it just has a wealth of knowledge there. So if you just go on to www.njpta.org, resources hub, most of your questions will be answered there. And if not, then you can always call Rob and he can answer the questions for you. We just wanted to also go over some Zoom training call protocols. You will be muted throughout the training. Please do not unmute yourself so we can cut down on any background noise. As we go through our presentation, please type your questions in the chat box. The questions will be answered at the end of the training during the question and answer period. For those of you that may not be familiar with Zoom, the chat box is located at the bottom of your screen. And if you are calling in via telephone, what we would like to do is just take a little time just to type in your name so we know who you are. So when I call out the last 4 digits of your number, if you can just state your name, we'll go ahead and change this so that we have a correct registration report. The number that ends in 3639. So you have that. The number ending in 7355. Can you state your name?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, Lauren. Well, I'm sorry, Lauren Leverage.
Lauren?
Yes.
And Lauren, what's your last name?
Leverith.
And then the number ended in 6393.
Yes. The password, you mean?
Michaela Davis.
Okay, Kayla Davis.
Oh, my phone number.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
calling the last four numbers of the phone number.
7355.
Okay.
I don't know.
And I think we have, there's one more number here. The number ended in 0501. Can you identify yourself just for our
Hi.
sign-in?
Yes. Hi. This is Rosanna Scarpati. I'm a treasurer at the Webster PTA.
Oh,
Daniel
wonderful.
Webster PTA.
Oh, okay. Rosanna, can you pronounce spell your last name?
Sure. SCAR, P as in Paul, A, T as in Tom, I.
Okay, thank you very much. Rob, did I get everybody? I don't think I missed anybody. Okay, great.
The
Okay.
639. Can we do that one more time?
3639, that's Laura. And Laura, your last name is Leverett?
Hi. Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Brianne Falconer?
Oh, Brianne.
Can you,
3639?
yes, can you hear me?
Okay.
3639, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm the treasurer for Old Bridge, the Alan B. Shepherd.
Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm also on, but I'm on my computer. Do you have me on, Carmelina
Yes.
Ferraro? Okay. Bye, everybody.
Yes,
Bye.
Thank you. Just the names that we were just trying to catch the names of the callers that called in because all we see is a phone number. But thank you anyway.
I don't know if you have mine then.
What's your oh, go ahead.
Oh, the numbers or my last name?
The
We
last
have
four
you. Catherine
numbers.
Snyder, we have you. Yes, everyone else has their name. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thanks, Rob. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first workshop, and that's our advocacy workshop. And Rosa Chera will be presenting for the advocacy workshop.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rosa Chera, and I am the Federal Legislative Chair. And the Federal Legislative Chair on the on the State Board is a liaison between the state and the level and the national advocacy work that we do. So tonight, hopefully, you will learn a little bit more about PTA advocacy as we go through this workshop. Next slide. So we love to always begin our workshops with the PTA mission. Hopefully those of you that are PTA leaders already know the PTA mission: to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. Again, notice the word advocate in our mission as we go through this presentation. Next slide. So tonight we're going to talk about how you can be an advocate for your community. National PTA was founded by advocates, and New Jersey PTA is one of the state congresses under the National PTA Congress, which is our parent organization. PTA has a strong history of impacting education policy and advocating for children. And at PTA, we definitely believe that advocacy is required to achieve success for all our children, which goes hand in hand with the mission. Tonight, as we go through here, through this presentation, you'll see that there's so many ways that we can advocate no matter what level of PTA we are at, even if you're brand new, even if this is the first year that your child is in school. You probably don't realize that you are already advocating, and hopefully by the end of the presentation, you will see that you're ahead of the game already when it comes to PTA advocacy in PTA. Next slide, please. So usually when you hear PTA, I'm sure when you first got involved in PTA, you think that PTA is the fundraising association that you join so that you can raise funds for your child's school, so that you can get things for your school, to be able to do more things to enhance the curriculum at your school. But again, tonight, as we go through this presentation, you'll see why it's also important not to be strong in raising funds in your association, but also to be a strong advocate in the leadership role that you play. Next slide. So what is advocacy? I started that when we first started talking about this. Here's some words right here. I know that as you think of what advocacy is, there's some words that might pop up in your head. And so I'm going to I know everyone's muted. Usually when we do this live, we have people call out some questions or call out some different words. But I'll go to the next slide and then we'll go through some of the words that have come up in some of our training. So right here is a list of words that describe what advocacy is. When you're in the PTA, when you are using your voice to speak up for your children, you may also be considered a supporter, a backer, a promoter, a proponent, a campaigner, a fighter, a crusader, and definitely a champion. I personally like to think of advocacy hand in hand with being a champion for your children. And when you start to advocate, you definitely see that, you know, you join the PTA usually for your own child, but as you move on, as you go through your PTA days and months, you realize that you are not just advocating for your own child, and then it starts to be the children in your child's classroom or the children in your child's school, and eventually children all over. So just keep some of those words in mind. Some people, when they hear the word advocacy, it's so broad for them, but just know that these are some of the other words that are used to also describe the word advocacy. Next slide. So, so simply put, advocacy is just sharing a story or your experience from your child, your school, your community that you are dealing with. Right now, things that we are going through with this pandemic, I am sure that we have had to do some serious advocating for our children because life as we once knew it is not the same in your typical what does learning look like. And I know throughout the summer, some of you hopefully are on some of the committees that your school district has for the reopen plans, because there you're advocating, you are the parent voice on this committee. If some of you are not on some of these committees, always ask to see what can I do? Is there someone that is on this committee as a voice? Because again, you start to advocate and you notice that then advocating turns, a simple issue, a campaign into an action item. It becomes a request, and also for a new policy, protocol, change in funding formula, improving training opportunities. Those are all what advocacy is all about. And then when we on the state level are doing advocacy training like this, we like to start to focus on the grassroots advocacy because again, advocacy has to start on the grassroots level. That's what we are doing as local PTA leaders. And then as it goes on, you'll see how it will then go on to the state level and to the federal level. Next slide, please. So what has PTA advocacy accomplished? A lot of folks, when they first get involved in PTA, don't know that this is a list of things that the PTA accomplished just by getting out there, using their voice, going to decision makers, so the creation of kindergarten classes, the child labor laws, the public health service hot and healthy lunch programs, juvenile justice system, mandatory immunization, arts and education, and school safety. This is a list of great accomplishments by the PTA. So this is why when they're, for example, on the local level, you may find out that they want to get rid of one of the arts and want to put the art teacher, take her out of her classroom and have her roll around on a cart. As PTA, you will want to make sure that that doesn't happen. Also the creation of kindergarten. It was many years ago that many years ago, before my time too, that there was no kindergarten. And women got together, advocates got together to make sure that kindergarten classes did happen. And the same goes for the hot and healthy lunch program in school. So these are just some of the examples. And obviously school safety. When we talk about advocating now today and at the present time, school safety is something that we definitely should be advocating as we think about what learning in September will look like. And like I said, right, so many districts right now have their plans up in the air, or they're working with them and have to get them finalized by the end of this month. Just make sure that your school district is keeping school safety on the forefront, and that no matter what the plan is, that the child and the staff are always going back, or whatever way we go back, in a very safe and healthy manner. Next slide. So who are PTA advocates? PTA advocates speak up for every child to make sure that they have a high quality public education, no matter of their race, the disability, the gender, income, or even where they were born. We speak up for all children. PTA advocates engage families and schools, communities, and all levels of government to protect the rights of all children and family. This is also very important to remember, that when we are recruiting members for our PTAs, that we remember that our job is to engage families in the school and also communities. Many of us think that unless you have a child in that school, that someone can't be an advocate for your PTA. That is not true. Involving your community is very important. So that's where you want to make sure that, reach out to your the town council, board of ed members, different groups. Many districts have different types of committees on the local level, but make sure that they are involved, because those are the voices that are going to help you advocate even more for your child and all children. But just in a sense, when you think about who are PTA advocates, remember that you are a PTA advocate. You, by signing up to be a leader in your organization, you, by being here tonight so that you could learn to be a better leader, you are working towards being a great PTA advocate. Next slide, please. So I mentioned before the grassroots advocacy. And again, I still remember when I started to get into, well, what is advocacy? I'm a PTA leader. I need to learn more about this. Grassroots is just starting from the bottom, pretty much. And it just involves communicating with the general public, which again, your general public can be your members, your own PTA members, your members of your community, like at a Board of Education meeting. Grassroots advocacy also means engaging your elected officials at the local, state, and federal level. This too is very important. Through PTA, as the year goes on, I know one went out today, you will start to see PTA, New Jersey PTA take action, and then there's sometimes we'll see a national PTA federal level take action alert. Please, please pay attention to those. That means that something is going on that's affecting our schools, our children, our communities. And if you read about that and help us take action, it will help us as a collective voice make sure to fight for whatever, or be a supporter. Fight maybe is a little bit negative, but be a supporter of laws that may be affecting, or policy that may be affecting our children. And also grassroots advocacy also means just raising public awareness on issues so that our members are encouraged to they themselves speak up, offer their public opinion on regulations and on public policy. It's not just ourselves using our voice, but encouraging and empowering our members to also use their voice when it comes to advocacy. Next slide, please. Okay. So how you start a grassroots advocacy campaign, and this is really quick, you know, as we go on, there's other trainings that are going to be longer on advocacy, and also there, I know that National PTA has an e-learning course if you are interested in this and want to learn more. But it's as simple as identifying the problem and then taking the problem and turning it into an issue campaign by involving others. And then with your group, whether it's your PTA members, a committee that you've put together, just parents that are interested, because you may have parents that maybe don't come to the PTA meetings, but they have become members, but then an issue strikes and they really, really want to be involved with it. So together, create a strategy about how you're going to solve the problem that you have identified. And then obviously the advocate piece comes in, where again, it's using your voice. And as we go on, you'll see different ways that we could use our voices to advocate on a campaign. Next slide, please. So I mentioned before that the federal advocacy piece. And so obviously the federal advocacy piece starts with our president and our Congress people. And New Jersey PTA, I will tell you, does very great work when it comes to advocating on the federal level for our members, for all of us. But we also do invite our local leaders to also help us. As state members, we do attend once a year a federal legislative conference that is put on by National, and all the members of every state PTA attend. And we work together all week, building up, working on what the policy or what the different advocacy initiatives we want to work on. And then everyone goes to the Hill on one of the days during that week. And that's where we use our voice to advocate not only on our behalf, but on behalf of all our members. So know that when you get that question, like, well, that money that we pay to New Jersey PTA, where does it go? The portion that goes to National PTA, where does it go? That's some of that money is being used for us to advocate for policies and different laws, funds. Lately, we've been doing a lot of advocating for funds because as we know, with education taking a turn to different, remote learning and all that, funds are going to be needed. But if you go to pta.org /policy agenda, you will see some of the policy items that we have advocated for and things that are on the forefront of our work. So again, know that it's not just on the local level that we're advocating or the state level, but all the way up to the national federal level. So this is some of the advocacy that we have done on the federal level: better quality education, fighting for elementary and secondary education, special education, early learning and childhood education. Then there is a lot of the preschool programs have started to pop up in different districts. Hopefully some of your districts are taking advantage of those funds made available for preschool expansion. Gun safety and violence prevention, juvenile justice, child health and safety, and public dollars for public schools. Again, that public dollars for public schools right now is very important because we want to make sure that our children that are attending public schools are getting all the funds that are needed for our schools. So how can you become a better advocate? I've been saying a lot, and now, when you think to yourself, how can I help myself or my PTA, my school district, and be a better advocate? Attend advocacy events on the state level. Hopefully soon, when we get to meet in person, we'll be doing some of those. Until then, There will be some virtual events coming in the fall, so please look for those. Sign up for Voter Voice. This is a new program made available through National PTA, and you will get emails that come from the Voter Voice platform. When I talked about different take action alerts that we will send out, they will come out through Voter Voice. So please, as state leaders, you will automatically be signed up for that. When you get those emails, don't think that it's spam or junk. Please make sure that you you continue to say, yes, I'd like to register for this. So by putting in your home address, you will be able to, with a click of a button, communicate directly with all of your decision makers, your congressman, when it's on the state level, it'll go right to your assembly people, your senator. So that is very important. And I could go on and on about Voter Voice, but I won't. But you will be getting information about that. Taking e-learning courses on advocacy. I mentioned that National PTA has some e-learning courses, and I know Sharon will probably share how to get onto those e-learning courses a little later. Attending Department of Education focus groups or participating in one of their surveys. I'm sure as this pandemic has evolved, you received surveys that the DOE was looking for our feedback. Again, I can't stress enough how important the parent voice is. So please, please, when you get these surveys from our state Department of Education, from the state PTA, please, we ask that you fill it out. In the next week or so, we are going to be doing a survey that's going to be asking you, our members, how you feel about your district plan, education plan. It is important that you get back to us, fill it out, because then in turn, we will be able to represent you with our Department of Education and with our decision makers to say, this is what our parents want. And if you don't fill out these surveys or participate in some of these focus groups, we don't know what our parents want. So please, that is so important. And a simple way to be an advocate. Volunteer to testify at a public hearing. We'll talk more about that, as in other trainings. But again, you look at public hearing, it might seem overwhelming, but it's something that we build up to. And then write and submit resolutions, which I talk about at the end. Next slide, please. So, and there it is now. So, I've shared a lot of information with you. I don't know if I'm over, but, that we're not in person, so they can't be giving me the cut sign, which is a good thing. But just right now, on your local level, as things come up, please remember that there are ways that you can make a difference by putting in a position statement. And again, in doing the e-learning course, it'll talk more about position statements. Then you could also, will help you put together resolutions on a campaign or actually on an issue that you feel strongly about. And I talked about the call to action. These 3 items are things that we can do we can help you do on the local level. But again, all it takes is contacting us at New Jersey PTA at newjerseypta.org, where Rob will put you in touch with our, I do want to mention that our advocacy team, you got to meet me tonight as the federal leg chair, but we also have a vice president of advocacy. Her name is Lynette Howard, and Lynette oversees our legislative chair, who she is brand new and very excited. She's been on the legislative committee, and she just recently was appointed by Kathy, our president, as our state legislative chair, and the 2 of them will definitely help put you in touch with the right people. So again, it's so important, and hopefully, I didn't talk too fast, but help you understand or give you, some viewpoint into advocacy and why it's so important. And of course, I can't stress enough, like I said, why it's so important right now with what's going on in education in New Jersey. And is that my last slide, Rob? That's it? Okay, and so I think I am now turning it back over to our president, Kathy Lindenbaum. I know some of you might have put some questions in the chat. We will get back to you with that. But again, like I said, just email New Jersey, njpta@njpta.org. I'm sure they'll show you that slide at the end, and one of us will get back to you.
Thank you, Rose. Great PowerPoint presentation, and we appreciate you and our whole advocacy team. So tonight, you will participate in the local PTA president and vice president training. The president serves as the presiding officer of the local PTA and presides over the board of directors and general membership meetings. The president directs the affairs of the association in cooperation with other members of your board. The vice president serve as an aide to the president and have different roles as prescribed by your local PTA bylaws and standing rules. And just a little note that your New Jersey PTA team, like you're required as a local leader to have training, your PTA board members from the president down to every board member, we also get trained by national. So we also have to be trained, just so that you know. Next slide, please. I think we have, go back the other way, National PTA Mission. Okay, we're just advancing, sorry. Let's start by diving into the business side of your PTA and how the mission relates. Sort of like the operations, as the corporation would call it. All local PTAs in the state of New Jersey, through your affiliation with New Jersey PTA, are a 501c3 organization under the IRS codes. But what does that really mean? Due to our mission, the IRS has granted PTAs to be tax exempt, not for-profit company. This means that any items or services purchased without having to pay sales tax. It also means that as a PTA, you do not have to pay any income tax on donations and money made. A lot of these rules, and most of them, are New Jersey nonprofit rules, not PTA rules. But as your parent association, since you get chartered under New Jersey PTA, we have to make sure that you are following the rules. Next slide, please. Just a little bit finishing up on the nonprofits. However, because PTAs get their tax exempt for free, so you do have to follow the rules. Some of the rules are you have to file annually the Form 990. That could be 990N, 990EZ. This is like your personal 1040, and just like your 1040, it is an IRS law that you file it annually. No individual benefits from PTA funds. A PTA raises $10,000, and instead of spending it equally amongst all the grades in the school, whereby all students would benefit, instead the PTA gives out one $10,000 scholarship to a student, which that would not be legal. 501(c)(3) organizations are not allowed to support or campaign for a candidate for public office, nor can they lobby. So these, you can get more information. That's all in there, either by contacting someone on the advocacy team, like Rose said, or just going on the website on pta.org and going to the advocacy page. And upon a PTA's disaffiliation, its remaining assets must be distributed to another 501c3 organization. A PTA should never allow another organization or a group to use your 501(c)(3) status. And that means at a local level, you should never loan or rent your gaming license to another organization. This can cost your PTA a charter. And I know some people feel that it can be done, and sometimes there are little loopholes in the IRS law that you can do it if you do an event together and you split the funds. PTA tells you that you are not allowed to do that. So you get your tax exempt and your 501(c)(3) status through New Jersey PTA. We are saying that you cannot lend out your organization's gaming license, your CRIs, anything like that. And the most important rule is that the PTA must adhere to our mission statement through all of your work. Always ask yourself, is this go to our mission? Okay, your role as PTA president is to lead the PTA, and you're overseeing the financial and legal documents. You represent the PTA. You are the one person that needs to represent the PTA, unless you have someone else do it for you. But also you have to remember that whatever you do and say needs to go back to the mission, and you need to talk to your board about it to make sure that everyone is on the same page and it goes through your mission. You foster partnerships and relationships with your community. That's your job as the president, to go out there, talk to people, try to, obviously get more membership, and try to make your PTA look good, and tell people, this is what PTA is doing. You communicate with your members, however you might do that, through email, texting, website, whatever you do. You should have a newsletter, send out emails, make sure your members know what's going on and all the great things that your PTA is doing. In PTA, a lot of times we don't like to pat ourselves on the back, but you're not patting yourself on the back. Just remember, you're patting your organization on the back, all your volunteers and all your leaders in your school. Next, please. Things no one told me. When I became president of the elementary school, when my oldest son, I'm a mom of 5, and I was lucky enough to stay home with my kids. And, I was very eager to volunteer at school, but then there were some stuff that that I would find out that I was like, oh, why did I do this? Like, I'm sure a lot of you think sometimes, but all in all, I think that it's definitely a worthwhile experience. You may not engage in businesses that is unrelated to the purposes of PTA. So you can endorse products, companies, or foundations. Now, I know sometimes, we get some donations from like that local pizza parlor, or we get support from, a business in the community, and we know that, they're doing great things. But you have to remember that you can't say, on Fridays, go out and get, Domino's Pizza because Domino donates everything. You can say, when you're in Domino's Pizza picking up a pie, please say thank you to them for supporting the PTA. Keep your records, keep your receipts, make sure everything is there. If you're, getting donations, if you're, whatever you're doing, make sure you keep good record keeping. Ensure that you have diversity on your PTA. Look at your PTA community, look at your school, and that's what your board should look like. It should look like your community. Parents want to help, but like to be asked. Some people are shy and will never offer their expertise until they're asked. Maybe send out, when you send out your committee list, or, just ask for a survey from your local members and say, what do you do for, a living? What are your hobbies? Find out what they like to do. I remember when I was an elementary PTA president, there were a lot of moms and dads who couldn't help, but, you can call them and they'll be there to, donate something for your, bake sale, even though we don't like to say PTA with bake sales, but, just at the drop of a hat, you can call someone and they might not be able to volunteer all their time, but there's something that they want to do for you. Not all members share the same beliefs and may not know what you know. So be patient and be a teacher to them. You can have a future president sitting in the audience at your meeting, and you never know what people's life is like at a time. So, just, try to be patient and try to reach out to people and just say hello. Okay, next slide. Remember, great leaders inspire others. Take action. Try to delegate your jobs to people, because that also inspires people to become a leader, to flex their style, match a situation, transform potential into realities. People have great ideas, ask them to help you do it. Sometimes people will sit at your PTA meetings and they'll tell you all these great things that, you should be doing. Ask them to do that, because, sometimes there could be a great idea, but if you can't do it, then, then how is it going to get done? So it's always good to say, hey, if you can't do it, help us. Okay. What every president should know. Now we'll do an overview of the office's duties. The president should learn about all aspects of PTA and should certainly know the rules. Go over your bylaws, go over your standing rules, go over your filing requirements, how to run the meeting, because at the end of the day, if there's a problem, you're going to be the one that they contact. It's not going to be anyone else. It's going to be you and the principal of the school. So PTA is the oldest and largest child advocacy association in the world, which Rose went over all that in her advocacy slides. And, it was founded in 1897. That's a long time. We have a long history of doing really good things for students. The president should be looking for their replacement from day one on the job. You should be looking for that capable, responsible person in your PTA to take over after your term is done. And, as you probably already know, for those who've been in your term and for those of you who are just starting, things flash by in a second. I just feel like I was elected president-elect and I'm already, into more than half of my term. The president should want the best way, not his or her way. PTA is a democracy, not a dictatorship. Transparency. It's always better if you're transparent and everyone is in on the decision making. There might be some things that as a president you could do on your own, but isn't it, I've learned that it's better to include everyone, because then when things go right, you have people to celebrate with you. And if things, don't go exactly the way you wanted, then everyone's not putting the blame on you. A good president knows that doing it his or her way trains no one and involves no one, and then people do lose interest. Let's see. And then, you should encourage your participation, involving as many people as you can. Don't assume your members or even your board members know what you know. Communicate and explain. Sometimes just assigning a mentor to someone is very helpful. I found that helpful when I first started PTA. There was a couple of, I will say, seasoned people, board members that, helped lead the way for me, and it was great. Read all your information sent out by us, New Jersey PTA and National PTA, pass along to your board and your general members. That's also a way to get people more involved. Something might trigger something that they would enjoy to do. A good president delegates and lets people do the jobs. Once you delegate the job, might not be exactly the way you would do it, but as long as they're not doing anything wrong and they're going by the guidelines, just let it go. Sometimes you just have to let it go as a president. A president is positive, try to stay enthusiastic, and definitely try to have a good sense of humor. Okay, so what are your duties as president? Okay, we'll do an overview of your duties. Some of them, not all, are president's duties, but stuff that you might want to be involved in. You set the calendar for the meetings of the year. Of course, you have to involve your offices in that, because you want to make sure, that your secretary could be there, your treasurer, but definitely set the calendar at, your reorg meeting that you guys all, should be having right about now. Then you preside over all your board of directors, your general membership meetings. If you can't preside, then your vice president would preside. You run an orderly, time-efficient meeting and definitely write and use an agenda. I will tell you the great way to get people not to come to your meetings anymore is if you say you're going to start at 7 o'clock, you don't start till like 7:20, 7:25, and then you don't really know, you're shuffling through papers, you don't know what's going on, and your meeting becomes committee meetings. People don't have reports, and that's a good way. And your meeting runs 2 hours. It's a great way not to have anyone come back to your meeting. Ensure that the goals of your PTA are being carried out and the budget is being followed. Ask for an update on your budget before your meeting so that you have an update on what people are spending if someone comes to the meeting and you know what's going on, because the most embarrassing thing is as president if you don't know what's going on with the money, because in the end everyone wants to know the finances. Be sure to look over your bank statements monthly. Usually you can now sign into it. You should definitely, as president, have a sign in so that you can look at what's going on. You sign, as the president, you sign the contracts and legal documents. Committee chairs cannot do this. So know that only the president should be signing contracts. That's always a question that comes up. Why, if it's the committee person? Obviously, you share, be transparent with that information. Your committee person could, talk to the fundraising people that you're using or whatever the contract is. But in the end, you as president sign it and you should know what's in that contract. The president sits as ex officio on every committee except the nominating committee and financial review committee, which the financial review committee is the audit committee. We renamed it as a financial review. And we get a lot of times that, presidents will call and, or people will call and say that, the president is, involved in those two committees and you shouldn't be. Ensure everyone is doing your job without micromanaging. Make sure the treasurer is doing the important filings because in the end, the buck's gonna stop with you. So next slide, please. So before your meeting, here's some of the things you should accomplish before any general membership meeting or board of directors meetings. When I was a local president, I always would give the principal a call before, I finalized the agenda to see if there's anything that the principal, might like added to the agenda. Just because the principal asked it doesn't mean you have to put it on, but, we like to say that you should be working with your principal and you should have that, time to converse with the principal before the meeting. And if something, goes on at the meeting, converse with them after the meeting. Prepare an agenda, work with your other board members, especially the secretary, go over your minutes from the last meeting and incorporate these items into your meeting. It's always good to get your minutes from your meeting a couple days after your meeting if possible. Now with computer stuff, it shouldn't be so hard because that keeps fresh in your minds if there's things that you have to do during that month or 2 months before your next meeting. And or if someone calls and asks you who was not at the meeting, you have that fresh in your mind. Now remember, those minutes aren't minutes, and Ginger will go over this in the secretaries until they're approved, but it's good to get a copy of something. Remind everyone who will be reporting at the meeting that they should be prepared. The worst way to embarrass someone is if they had no idea they were doing a report. Again, I'm just going to state this again. Committee meetings should not be, that should be a separate meeting. It should not be held at your general membership meetings. They should give a written report. You can talk to them before the meeting, but all that stuff should be finalized. They should just be giving a report about what happened at their committee meetings. Remind the secretary to have the minutes from the previous meeting ready. These should be sent out ahead of time, or you can read them at the meeting, but it's really much better if you send them out ahead of time or at least have a couple copies. If we get to do in-person meetings again, who knows when that'll be, but it's always good to have it. This way people can have their questions ready if they have any questions. Remind the treasurer to have a treasurer's report prepared. The members want to know where the money of the PTA is going. That's a definite, I can tell you that. Gather everything you need before your meeting, and the best thing to do is to be prepared. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, you did it already. Okay, great. During the meeting, you should start on time, follow the agenda, take notes if you need to follow up on something. Encourage participation. Be sure everyone's input is heard and not just a certain few. Don't let people monopolize your meeting. If you have to say everyone, a good rule is everyone pick a time, like you let people talk 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Let everyone talk first before someone can speak again. It always works out well. Seek input. Send out your agenda ahead of the meeting. It's always nice when members are prepared with the topics of the meeting, and then this way, if they have questions, they could be prepared. Do not rehash the past. Time, move forward. No debates at a meeting. That's not, people state what they want to say. Don't get personal. I could remember, I've had a bad experience when I was first the local unit president that I let people start getting personal at the meeting, and the meeting got out of hand very, very quickly. So that can happen. So, anything personal, if it's an item that the principal should take care of, direct them to the principal. If you have a teacher liaison there, direct them to them, and they can get the questions to the principal. You could get the questions to the principal, but, nothing personal, and definitely don't let people get up there and start talking about students. Ensure members understand the method of voting and what is being voted on. So when someone makes a motion and it's seconded and you have your debate, that's all great. But before the vote is taken, say, now we're going to take the vote, and, ensure that, if you vote for, blue pens, if you vote to buy pens, note that, we're going to be buying, pens, if you vote yes for that. If you don't want to buy pens, then vote no. Sometimes people need that, especially if debate is going on for a while. Be courteous to all. It includes your members, guests, speakers. If students are at your meeting, whoever's at your meeting, be courteous. Okay, after the meeting, when the meeting is over, be sure the secretary sends you a copy of the minutes soon after the meeting. Okay, follow up on assignments and programs initiated during the meeting, especially upcoming events and programs, so that this way you could give a report at your next meeting. Update as necessary your procedure book and running list of duties. This will make it easier if you have a 2-year term, or pass it on to so you can pass it on to your successor. Evaluate the meeting and the work of the association. If something's not working, don't be afraid to change it. If something's going great, good, keep it that way. Okay, next slide, please. Where is the help? New Jersey PTA and National PTA are here to help. Here are some ways. Your bylaws, again, I can't, and you'll have a bylaws presentation, but I still read the bylaws of PTA. Standing rules and Robert's rules, your standing rules. I don't know if all your locals have standing rules, but you should have standing rules. It's much easier to govern when your board, and Stephanie will go over standing rules, but it's much easier to govern when you have stuff written down that you're going to go by. And then you have Robert's Rules of Order. Those are the rules of your local PTA. It'll give you, all those things will give you a lot of insight. You can go to pta.org. We have e-learning courses. You're attending a training. This is great. NewJerseyPTA.org has handbooks. We have forms, member hub, our new local PTA resources hub. Sample agendas are there, sample procedure books, running list of duties, PTA letterhead, important numbers list, important contact information list. You can always, Rob is here in the office to help, New Jersey PTA at NewJerseyPTA.org. There's transition checklists. There's a whole bunch of stuff on that website, and you can always call. Okay, next, please. So these are just sample agendas that you can use. I'm not going to go over them because, this, you can see this. Next slide. These are all just sample agendas. Okay. And then vice president's duties. You act as the aide is to the president. According to the bylaws, the role of the vice president is to act as an aide to the president, perform the duties of the president in the president's absence. In your standing rules, you can assign vice presidents other duties. They could be in charge of membership programs, fundraising. The important thing is, to communicate with the president, the vice presidents, and for that matter, your whole board. Okay, bylaws of your PTA are important. If you do not have a copy of your bylaws, contact Rob at the state office. We'll send you a copy. They are, online. They're the documents containing the basic rules of the association. And as a nonprofit, you are required to have them. Again, I'm going to say know them, file them. Right now, New Jersey PTA requires that you review and renew your bylaws every 3 years. The resources to complete your bylaws renewal can be found on the local PTA resource hub. Standing rules. Standing rules are not mandatory, but they're highly recommended in any PTA. I say we should make them mandatory, but we haven't yet. But I think these are really important. It helps derail conflict. They're adopted by the board of directors, so you can change them when needed to make sure that things are going to run smoothly and the way you want them. It improves efficiency. You know, when you, again, I'm going to say it, when you have rules written down that everyone agreed to, then, you know, there's not a problem. You can say, well, we all voted on these rules. Everyone agreed that these were good rules, so you need to follow them. You know, it's transparent. It helps. Transparency always helps. And it helps the board members work together. Your relationship with the principal or your building administrator. This can make or break your PTA. Okay, some tips to make the working relationship a great one. Well, first, just remember, your principal runs the school, you run the PTA. Your principal is the CEO of the school. You should meet early and often. Obviously, now we're doing Zoom meetings, but, you know, try to set up a Zoom meeting with your principal. You know, need for confidentiality. The principal probably will tell you things that they don't want shared with others. You need to respect that, because once the principal can't trust you anymore, you know, it's going to be a hard year or two if the principal feels that they can't trust you to say things that if you go on and you share stuff, even with your board, even with that one person, because we know the telephone game. You tell one person and how they tell one person because they trust that person, then more people ends up knowing than should. Your principal or designee serves as a member of the board of directors. They can vote just like every other member. Figure out with your principal what the principal wants you to get approval for, you know, whether it's, you know, again, now it's going to be a little difficult, you know, probably with some of your fundraisers with COVID going on, but just find out what the ground rules are with the principal. Set the example for the volunteers on the relationship they should have with the principal. So financial controls. Okay, so I'm going to just say this: never sign a blank check. You know, this might not be a good thing to say, but I'm going to say it. Don't trust anyone when it comes to it. You're not an ATM for the school, obviously. You know, you do what you can based upon the PTA mission. Just because the teacher or principal wants something, it doesn't mean that you have to buy it, you know. And anything that you put in your, but remember, your your PTA general membership needs to vote on your budget. If it's anything that's not in your budget line item, you have to go back to your general membership to vote. So you can't even promise your principal something unless it's voted on by your general members. It must support the mission with all your fundraising. Ensure that you are not just fundraising to fundraise. You need to, you know, if you make your budget on your first fundraiser, you shouldn't be doing any more fundraisers for the end of the year, for that year. And make sure there's a reason behind all of them. Ensure that proper financial controls are being followed, including reconciliation of your bank statement. Each month, you should have someone that's not a signer on your account looking at your bank statements and initialing them. You know, for information on this, they'll be on the treasurer's page of the local PTA Resources Hub, and Lori will also be doing a presentation this evening. Okay, use of PTA funds. Here are some good uses of your PTA funds. Insurance. You should have insurance. We don't make it mandatory, but that's another thing that, you know, some state PTAs do make it mandatory. There's a full page on what kind of insurance is available to local PTAs on the Resource Hub. Leadership development training for your members. Obviously, something like this is free, but we are having a virtual convention that Sharon will mention the dates of that. That this year is free, but you know, when we do have in-person convention, or if we, you know, whatever we're going to do next year, there usually is a charge for that, and that's something that you should have in your budget and come to. Cultural arts programs and assemblies, recognition awards for student achievement, curriculum enhancement, and equipment within reason. You know, just remember that when you're buying equipment for your school district, if you do that, anything that you buy, and you have to obviously donate to the school, you're donating it to the school, they can take that and put it anywhere they want. That doesn't mean if you buy, you know, I think of the story that when I went to a first training, a summer leadership training way back when, one of the past presidents, Emmy Hunter, told a story about they fundraised, her kids were really into the arts, and her school was, you know, great with the arts, and they fundraised for a baby grand piano. And they decided that a baby grand piano wasn't appropriate for an elementary school, so they took it to put it in the high school. And she told me, and I'll never forget this, that she actually was laying on top of the piano when they took it out of the school because she was so upset. So just remember, and that was legal for them to do. So remember that when you are thinking about buying stuff for the school. So the standards of affiliation is to provide support and guidance to our local PTAs and councils. New Jersey PTA provides a standards of affiliation agreement checklist to help navigate legal requirements. Our resources hub has a full training video and best practices and tip sheet for the standards of affiliation agreement checklist. And each of these items are covered in the treasurer presentation. Ensure they are completed. Form 990 submission, charities, registration renewal, state of New Jersey annual report. It's your job as president and board members to make sure that this all gets completed. Okay. Passing the baton, transitions. They're important. You may have a 1-year term, a 2-year term. You should always think about transitions. This is where your procedure books come in, whether you do it, you know, via virtual, or whether you have a written book. It's important to pass stuff on because it's important for the future of the PTA, and it's important for your community to make sure that there's an active parent group. Get people interested, be friendly, inviting, and inclusive, make it fun, follow proper nominating and election procedures. See the resource guide on the resources hub. Do not recycle your offices. This makes it seem like you do not need new people. People become complacent, seeing the same faces in leadership positions, and their thought is they're making it happen. They don't need me. And, you know, sometimes unless you just say, I'm not doing it, you won't get that new person to come up. There's always, you know, positions for, you know, you to move on to on your county level and on the state level. And we even have a national board member on our board, Rose. So there's places for you to go. Everyone wants volunteers. And yeah, just, you know, when you're transitioning and new offices are coming in, you know, make sure you give them the support they need, orientation meetings, you know, be there if you could. So if they, you know, get on the phone, they can call you and they could, you know, be a resource for them. So help your PTA shine. National PTA has a lot of awards and grants. We meaning New Jersey PTA, do local PTA recognition awards. The Reflections program is awesome. We have that's you know, a lot of schools stay PTA just because they love to participate in the Reflections program. And that's a great program for students. And I think that's it. So now I'm going to ask Lori Palmer, our state treasurer, to come and give you her treasurer's workshop.
Hello, my name is Lori Palmer, and I am the 2019-2021 New Jersey PTA Treasurer. Today, you will participate in the local PTA Treasurer training. The Treasurer is the authorized custodian of the funds of the association and receives and disperses all money in accordance with the budget as approved by the association's general membership. Let's start by diving into the business side of your PTA and how our mission relates to it. All local PTAs in the state of New Jersey, through our affiliation with New Jersey PTA, are classified as nonprofit organizations under IRS Code 501c3. But what does that really mean? Well, because of our mission, the IRS considers PTAs nonprofit businesses and has granted PTAs tax-exempt status. This means that the IRS allows PTAs to receive income, and we do not have to pay income tax on that income. We are exempt from paying any income tax. Because we are recognized as tax exempt by the IRS, the state of New Jersey also recognizes our charitable purpose and allows PTAs to earn income without paying income tax in the state. And furthermore, the state of New Jersey also allows PTAs to make purchases without sales tax. Next slide. There you go. So how do you keep your nonprofit status safe? There are rules that the IRS has for 501c3 organizations. There's a publication, which is IRS publication 4221-PC, which would give you more rules. But in general, PTAs must annually file a Form 990. That would either be the 990N, your 990EZ, or your 990, depending on the income of your PTA. These are like your personal 1040 forms, and just like your 1040, it's the IRS law that you file them annually. No one individual can benefit from PTA funds. For example, if a PTA is going to fundraise and they raise $10,000, and instead of spending it equally among all of the students, they decide that they're going to give one $10,000 scholarship to one student. That is not allowed by 501c3 rules. 501c3 organizations are not allowed to support or campaign for a candidate for public office, nor can they lobby. If a 501c3 PTA dissolves, then those PTA's remaining assets must be distributed to another 501c3 organization. Your PTA should never, ever, ever allow another organization or group to use your 501c3 status. That would mean at the local level, you should never loan or rent your gaming license to another organization. So what are the duties of the treasurer? The treasurer does have a lot of responsibilities and duties, and we're just going to give you a simple overview of some of them. The treasurer needs to maintain accurate books and financial records for their PTA. The treasurer is a likely candidate also to be involved with the preparation of the budget. The treasurer has to pay all of your bills on time, and part of that responsibility is to remit your dues monthly to NJPTA. The treasurer has to present a treasurer's report at every board of directors meeting and general meeting. It's best to bring your financial records with you in case you have to answer any questions. The treasurer provides the PTA committee people with the PTA's ST5 form so that they can use that whenever they're purchasing taxable items for PTA events. The ST5, it's the New Jersey form, tax exempt form, which allows us to purchase things and not pay sales tax in the state of New Jersey. The IRS 990, the NJCRI form, and the New Jersey annual reporting form all must be filed, and we'll be discussing them in a little while. At the end of the year, you need to prepare financial records for the Financial Review Committee. While the treasurer is in charge of the actual record keeping of the PTA finances, it is everyone's responsibility to know what is happening with your PTA's funds. This is a sample of your ST5 form. It should be used anytime anyone is purchasing a taxable item for your PTA, and that will ensure that no tax is charged. If you can't find your ST5, you can contact the New Jersey Department of the Treasury to obtain a new one. To provide support and guidance to our local PTAs and councils, the New Jersey PTA provides a Standards of Affiliation Agreement checklist to help navigate the legal requirements. Our Resources Hub has a full training video and best practices and tip sheet for the Standards of Affiliation Agreement checklist. We're only going to cover now the items related to finances. We're discussing only those, which is why they are not in numerical order. Our number 1 on the standards of affiliation is your IRS 990 filing, which we're also going to discuss later. The New Jersey Charities registration and the New Jersey annual report will also be discussed in a little while. Number 6, after your board determines the budget, you, the treasurer, must present it to the PTA's general membership for adoption. You must present it at your first general membership meeting of the year, which is usually at back to school night. Number 7, as we said before, you must pay dues to NJPTA monthly. And number 8, we mentioned this a little before, at the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, you need to prepare all financial records for the Financial Review Committee. There are instructions on the Financial Review telling you what you must provide to the committee. The Financial Review Committee is made up of at least 3 members of your PTA who were not signers on the checking account during the fiscal year that is being audited. Next, we will discuss the budget. So who prepares the budget? The president should ask for volunteers, but the logical choices should be to ask a past president, past treasurer, current president, current treasurer, and fundraising chair. How do we determine the budget? First, you have to determine your goals. Those are what you want to spend money on and how much money you need. A budget is a representation of those 2 monetary figures, how much you need to bring in and how much you want to spend. The budget is a projection of income and expenses. All of your PTA's cash on hand, your projected income and projected expenses must appear on the budget. For example, if your fall fundraiser last year was projected to bring in $15,000, but it only brought in $12,000, you would only put $12,000 in that budget line for this year's budget, or even less. It isn't a bad idea to underestimate your income a little bit, and likewise to overestimate your expenses by a little. That way you'll leave yourself a cushion. The budget must indicate your cash on hand at the beginning of the fiscal period. And remember that your fiscal year runs July 1st to June 30th. The budget has to include all projected income from all sources. The budget also has to include all projected expenses. Remember that items such as the New Jersey PTA convention and county council dinner meetings are legitimate expenses for your PTA and should be included in your budget. After the budget is completed, it must be presented to the PTA board of directors, and then you must present it to your general membership at the first general membership meeting of the school year. The next slide will show you a sample budget. Remember that a budget is a working document, so throughout the year, changes may be made to the budget depending on how the year is going. There are many more sample budgets online. You can very easily just Google search PTA budgets and they'll come up from all different states and places. So we all know part of PTA includes fundraising. That's because in order to carry out our mission statement, we need money, and we get the money by fundraising. What you need to do before you fundraise is determine the amount of money you need, what you want to spend the money on, and plan the fundraisers accordingly. Raise the amount of money you expect to spend in that year. There's no need for large carryover forward balances, and there's certainly no need for savings accounts. PTAs have no need for an emergency fund or a rainy day fund. Unlike our own personal lives where we should have emergency money in case of unexpected expenses, there are really no unexpected expenses for a PTA. So people might ask, what kind of fundraiser should you run? That will be determined based on your own individual PTA. You should pick fundraisers that you think would be successful in your school community. So each individual PTA in New Jersey may be doing different fundraisers depending on the makeup of their school. Another way that we can fundraise, next slide please, is through gaming. As a charitable organization in New Jersey, PTAs are legally allowed to hold bingos, 50/50s, raffles, gift auctions, tricky trays, all those fun things. But in order to hold any game of chance, you must apply for a biennial license from the New Jersey Legalized Games of Chance. And you must apply for permits for each gaming event from the municipality in which you're going to hold that event. That being said, a license and permits are only necessary if you are charging money for the event or for the tickets. For example, if your PTA wants to hold a candy bar bingo and the entrance fee admission price is a candy bar, then you don't have to have a license or permit because no money is being exchanged. It's just a candy bar. If you're charging for the tickets, you have to go through getting your license and your permit from the municipality. New Jersey state law requires that you have a separate checking account for all income and expenses related to gaming. This is very important that you have this separate checking account. If at any time the Legalized Games of Chance Commission wants to audit your gaming account, they really only want to look at one account that only has money in that comes in from your gaming account and goes out for any expenses related to gaming. They don't want to look through your main account that has everything else you've done. Very important part of your treasurer's duties is bookkeeping. And organization is the key to proper bookkeeping. You should keep a current check register. That can be a handwritten register, an Excel spreadsheet, or bookkeeping software like QuickBooks. You can actually purchase QuickBooks for about $50 through TechSoup.org. A good suggestion, if your PTA can afford it, would be to buy an inexpensive laptop for the PTA treasurer, install QuickBooks on it, and pass that laptop down from treasurer to treasurer. That way they would always have previous treasurer records. Using an income voucher and expense voucher system is a good way to keep organized. Here is a sample of an income voucher. All of these samples can be adopted to your own PTA. Next, we will have an example of a check request or expense voucher. You need to reconcile your check register to the bank statement every month. This will ensure that you have accurately recorded all income and withdrawal items. Also, if you read your insurance policy, it mandates that you have a non-signer on your checking account sign off on the reconciliation. The insurance company just wants to make sure that someone who does not have access to the money via check writing capabilities is looking at all PTA funds. Again, bring your books, register an income and check vouchers and bank statements to your monthly meetings, and that's a great time to have a non-signer look at the monthly reconciliations. Then you don't have to make a special time to meet up and do that. According to your bylaws, the president and treasurer must sign every check. Your insurance policy also requires you to have 2 signatures on every check. Even if your bank does not require it, the insurance policy does, and your bylaws do. You also have to have a 3rd emergency signer on your account in the event that one of the 2 main signers is indisposed. Remember, signers on the checking account cannot be related to each other either by blood or marriage. I know I heard Kathy say, never, ever, ever sign a blank check. That's like handing the keys to the checking account over, because anybody can fill in anything on that check. When we receive cash, don't take the responsibility of counting it all alone. Have at least one other person count it with you and sign off on the amount on the deposit voucher. You must reconcile your check register to the bank statement every month. But again, you have to have that non-signer reconcile it. Next slide. You must present a treasurer's report at every board of directors and every general membership meeting. Your treasurer's report runs from meeting date to meeting date and captures all the financial transactions that occur between those dates. You should have all of your books at every meeting in case there are questions. When you need to present the treasurer's report, you can either send the report out by email prior to the meeting, You can project it on a screen. You can print out copies and distribute them, whatever method works best for your PTA. Next, we will show you a sample treasurer's report. Next slide, please. Thank you. The internal audit financial review must be done by the Financial Review Committee, comprised of 3 members of your PTA. This is a committee that's appointed by the president. The audit committees cannot have been signers on the account during the period being audited. The treasurer should be available during the audit to answer questions by the committee if they arise, but they are not part of the Financial Review Committee because they are a signer on the account. The financial review form, which you can download from the New Jersey PTA Resources Hub, has self-explanatory instructions telling you everything you need to provide to the Financial Review Committee. Remember, all of your PTA's money must be accounted for in the audit. You must include information for all of your bank accounts. If you have multiple checking accounts, you have to give information for every one of those accounts. And August 31st is the deadline for submitting the financial review to New Jersey PTA so that you stay in compliance with New Jersey PTA. The IRS requires all nonprofits to annually file a 990 tax form. Which form of the 990 your PTA uses is dependent on your gross income. As you can see, if you gross 50,000 or less, you file the simple 990N online. If you gross 50 to 200,000, you file the 990EZ with schedules A and O and a schedule G, if you gross more than 15,000 in gaming income. If you gross 200,000 to 500,000, you file the 990 with the same schedules as the 990EZ. The IRS will automatically revoke your PTA's tax exempt status if the Form 990 is not filed for 3 consecutive years. Do not let this happen. File this form annually. Don't let it go even 1 year. It is very difficult to go back and very time sensitive, costly to get your tax exempt status back. You are also required to file a New Jersey CRI form. Next slide, you're right. Thank you. New Jersey state law requires that any nonprofit organization grossing more than $10,000 in fundraising income must be registered with New Jersey Division of Consumer Affairs Charities Registration Division. Remember, your gross income is all the money you bring in to your PTA. If you added up all the deposits in your check register, that would be your gross income. It is not the amount you fundraise less what it costs for that fundraiser. If you bring in $25,000 and you have to pay them $10,000 for the items, your gross income is the $25,000, not the difference between the two. Once you are registered with your charities registration division, you must file an annual CRI form. That's now an online form, and you must pay the appropriate fee. The fee, as you can see here, is based on your gross income. Again, don't lapse either in filing your CRI or your 990. Again, it's time consuming to get back your charities registration, and the state of New Jersey charities registration charges late filing penalties. If your PTA is incorporated, you must file a New Jersey annual report. The filing fee is $25.50 if you do not change the registered agent. Most PTAs have a lot of times the principal or somebody at the school as their agent, so that doesn't change the way the officers do. That way they don't have to change the agent. That's simply the person that the item goes to and then passes it on to the PTA to fill out the form. This is a list of all important contact information to get a hold of the New Jersey Charities Registration, to get a hold of the IRS, National PTA, TechSoup, as I talked about, to purchase the QuickBooks software. You can see your last 990 filing at the IRS. information on how to get in touch with us. At the office, you would call there, contact Rob, and he can answer all the questions that you have. So now we've come to the end of the year. So what does the treasurer have to do now that it's the end of the school year? The treasurer has to make sure that all the books are in order for that financial review audit committee. Make sure that all your invoices have been paid. Make sure all of the NJPTA standards of affiliation have been completed. If it is not the end of the treasurer's term, the treasurer must not if it is the end of the treasurer's term, they have to not only do what we talked about, but they should meet with the incoming treasurer to explain the whole process, hand over all of the PTA's financial records, because those records are the lawful property of the PTA, not of the individual officer, and discuss with the incoming treasurer attending NJPTA officer training, either in person or online, to prepare them for their coming year. So after the financial review is completed, you gather up all your records for the fiscal year, put it all in one large envelope, and store it with your prior year's records. Since the IRS requires a 7-year retention time for financial records, at the end of every year, you can discard the oldest year's records that you have, so you should still always have 7 years in your file. Ideally, all the PTA's financial records should be kept somewhere in the school. A designated file cabinet, a shelf, a little cubby, a closet, a hole in the wall, wherever you can find. Just ask the school principal where there may be storage space that you could grab a little bit of. Now, I will turn this over to Ginger for her secretary's presentation. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ginger Reinhold, and I am the state secretary. First slide, Rob. The duties of the secretary are to attend trainings. They can be the New Jersey PTA trainings, which we're having one tonight, county trainings, e-learning courses that National gives, as well as any webinars that we have on our site. You're to keep accurate and concise records of the proceedings of your PTA, prepare minutes to be approved, create and send meeting notices out to your members, and write letters authorized by and approved by the board and general membership, as well as your president. Next slide. Bring to every meeting. You want to bring local PTA bylaws, your minutes from past meetings, a red pen or pencil for corrections, an updated membership list from Member Hub, and or your membership chair may be able to keep that updated for you and help you with that. And also paper for ballots or index cards for ballots. You may have to vote through ballots on some kind of motion that is made, and it's possible. So you can have paper or you can have index cards. What are the minutes? The minutes are a legal document recording of what was done at the meeting, not what was said. They should never reflect the opinion of the secretary on anything said or done at the meeting. Next. What goes into your minutes? The name of your PTA, the type of meeting, whether it's a general membership, board of directors, or committee, the date, time, and place of meeting, the name and title of your presiding officer, the attendance list. You can always at your meetings, I think most local PTAs have a sign-in sheet, so have everyone sign in and you can attach that to your minutes. And you want to have your previous meeting minutes with you as well. One thing I want to mention here, when sending out your minutes ahead of time, if that's what you want to do, because it's been mentioned a couple of times, if you send them out ahead of time, may I suggest that you put on the first page the word draft, because it's not official until it's approved at that particular meeting. So that would be a real good suggestion for you to follow. Let me see. You also want in your minutes a treasurer's financial report. the board of directors and officer reports. If they can send that into you early, that would help as well, because then you know exactly what they're going to say and you really don't even have to write it down. You can just attach that as well. Motions, name of person making the motion and the result of the vote, time of adjournment, and the signature of the secretary and the date they're approved. What if there are any changes? As you see here, it says Susie King moved the Garden State PTA purchase a new microphone for use at a PTA meeting using excess funds from fall fundraiser, and it was adopted. But as everyone's reading them, they see it says Susie King. Well, maybe it was Sarah King, not Susie. So you circle Sarah, you circle Susie, and you put Sarah in the left-hand side of your minutes. Next. Record what is done, not what is said. Proposals are offered in the form of a motion. That the group do something. A motion begins with, I move that, and then the proposal. When you hear the words, I move that, it's the secretary's cue to take down the next statement. Next. Here is a copy or an example of a motion form, and you write down the exact words as stated by the chair, the committee head, or even if it's someone out in your membership itself. Now you can write down what it is that the motion that they're moving to make the motion, or if it's something that's very important or something that's very heated in your PTA, might I suggest that you actually have the person making the motion come up and write down exactly what they want to say. It just sometimes will help, because you don't want them coming back saying, I didn't say that. When if they wrote it down themselves, there's no absolute way they can say, give you any kind of a hard time. Next. Here's a motion example. James Olson says, Madam President, because of our third floor meeting room, it's not accessible to disabled members. I move that all meetings be held in room 141. So then secretary's notes would put down, it was moved by James Olson that all meetings be held in room 141. The motion was adopted or defeated, and you attach the original motion to your notes. Next. Committee reports. Committee reports can be written or presented orally. They can be for information only and end with a recommendation on which the body takes action. When a motion does come from a committee, just remember that there is no second needed on that. Committees need not report if they have nothing new. Next. Reminders. Record all counted votes, both for and against. Record names of committee appointments and nominees. Do not record the debate. Do not record the discussion, and do not record personal opinions. Minutes are permanent records of your PTA and must be kept forever. Well, we're a little ahead. Records to keep. You need to keep all your legal records, which is your charter, your bylaws, standing rules, and as everyone has mentioned before, very important that you should all have standing rules and minutes. The previous minutes, agendas, list of your officers, your chairman, and your committees, current reports, and financial reports. Next. Oh, so with that, I'm finished, and I'm going to now introduce Stephanie Bowe, and she is our Procedure and Bylaws Chair.
Thank you, Ginger.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Bowe, and I'm the New Jersey PTA Bylaws and Standing Rules Chairman. Next slide. Let's start. What are bylaws? Obviously, bylaws are legal documents that the Irish requires of all nonprofit organizations across the country, not only PTAs, all nonprofits. They are the basic rules of your PTA. They provide a broad overview of the operation of your PTA. Next. These are some of the important things stated in your bylaws. They state the basic purposes and principles of the PTA. These are the reasons that the IRS allows PTAs to raise funds with no income tax due, or in other words, these are the reasons the IRS has granted PTA their tax-exempt status. Your PTA's bylaws define your PTA's relationship with New Jersey PTA and National PTA. Your PTA was formed under the authority of New Jersey PTA. The IRS a long time ago gave New Jersey PTA the ability to create as many baby PTAs as they want without going through the process that other nonprofits have to do to set themselves up as tax-exempt organizations with IRS. So New Jersey PTA in that respect has a foot up in being able to do that, to be able to create PTA pretty much almost overnight. Your PTA's bylaws also define your PTA's relationship with New Jersey PTA. Oh, said that one, sorry. Bylaws give you a broad instruction for the nomination election process. Of course, there's a lot of details to that whole procedure, which can be found on our website. But this gives you the bylaws do state an overview of the whole process. Bylaws list your elected officers, their term and their terms of office, and a broad overview of their duties. Bylaws also state that your PTA Board of Directors must meet monthly throughout the school year. Bylaws tell you the minimum number of general membership meetings your PTA must hold, which is 3 is the minimum. You can have more though. The bylaws have an appendix attached, and that appendix is the New Jersey PTA Local Standards of Affiliation. Now, these standards of affiliation outline the important compliance requirements that your PTA must fulfill in order to be compliant with the IRS, the state of New Jersey, and New Jersey PTA. These were also spoken about during the treasurer's training here tonight too, because most of them have to do with the treasurer. Next. Why should you follow your bylaws? I know all of you asking that question right now. Most importantly, they are legal documents, and they also serve as a promise to abide by the rules of the association. They're designed to give order to your PTA. Also, always, knowing the rules makes your job easier. Bylaws should be strictly followed and should never be ignored. Next. How are your bylaws adopted? At least 6 months prior to the expiration of your current bylaws, the New Jersey PTA office will send you the bylaws packet. The bylaws packet contains instructions for the bylaws review and adoption process and a bylaws template. Remember, your bylaws come up for renewal every 3 years. Your PTA president should appoint a 3 to 5 member bylaws committee. The bylaws committee will review your current bylaws and either keep them the same or recommend changes. Then the bylaws committee will present those changes to the general membership, or present the bylaws as they were with no changes. We'll present them to the general membership at least 25 days before the meeting, or the general membership will vote to adopt those bylaws. Next. Which bylaws items can be altered? Most of the items in the bylaws are fixed language, and they can coincide with New Jersey PTA's bylaws and National PTA's bylaws. There are very few things that you can change in your bylaws. Here's basically what they are. You can choose the number of vice presidents your PTA elects. You can decide whether you want a secretary, a recording secretary, and a corresponding secretary, or just a secretary. Your PTA's officers' terms of office, either 1 year or 2, how many members constitutes a quorum for your PTA, and the membership dues you charge your members. Next. So, as I said before, your bylaws come up for renewal every 3 years. But during that time, if there's something in there that you can change, that you want to change, you can amend your bylaws. So remember, you can't change the fixed language in your bylaws, but you can change all of the variable items, which I mentioned in the prior screen, during that time before your bylaws actually expire. That's called amending your bylaws. You can do this very simply. You download the bylaws amendment form from the New Jersey PTA website, follow the instructions. But remember, any amendments you make to your bylaws, you have to present to your general membership in order for them to adopt those amendments. Next. So from time to time, New Jersey PTA Board of Directors will make amendments to the fixed language in your PTA's bylaws. These amendments are proposed at the New Jersey PTA annual meeting, and they're voted on by the general membership comprised of delegates from all of New Jersey's local PTAs. When the amendments are adopted at the annual meeting, they automatically become a part of your bylaws. At that point in time, right after the annual meeting, New Jersey PTA will send the amendments to your PTA so that you know what has changed in the fixed language of your bylaws. Next. So that's it for bylaws, but there's another set of documents called standing rules. What are they? They're also a set of rules just like your bylaws, but standing rules are specific to your PTA. Standing rules should be looked at as an overall procedure book on how your PTA operates. They should be as detailed as possible. They're unique to your PTA, so they should describe things that your PTA does. They should answer questions such as, and these are just examples because they can be very, very detailed and many pages long, but who does what when, detailed descriptions of duties for officers and committees. When do these people do that? What time of the school year? What time of school year does your PTA put on certain events, programs, or fundraisers? They may even list which specific events, programs, and fundraisers your PTA runs. What expenses your PTA pays for delegates sent to meetings, trainings, county dinner meetings if you have them. When do you hold your board of directors meetings? That is, some schools automatically, it's the first Monday of every month during the school year. You can put that in your standing rules. How many general membership meetings your PTA holds? The bylaws specify you must have 3, but you can have more. Where would that information be? If you're holding 5 general membership meetings, that should be stated in your standing rules. So basically, I look at standing rules as a document that if all of your board members were to leave tomorrow and a whole new set of people came in and they had never sat on your board before, they had no idea what your PTA did, they could pick up your standing rules and basically have a playbook by how to run your PTA, what to do, who does what, and when they do it. So it's so you can see that it's a very unique thing to your PTA. Next. Also, great thing about standing rules, they don't need to be adopted by your general membership, but you can present to your membership to do, but they do not have to. Your board of directors makes up your standing rules. They can be changed at any time during the year. In fact, they're a living document, so as things are not working or working, you would adjust them as you go along, but they do not need to be approved by New Jersey PTA like your bylaws do. Your PTA Board of Directors creates your PTA standing rules. Like I said, you can change them at any time. So yes, if something's not working, definitely change it. It's important to remember that you can make your standing rules as detailed as you want, but they can never conflict with your bylaws. Next. So why are standing rules necessary, other than I just relayed to you that they would be an excellent tool on how to run your PTA? But they also improve efficiency. They detail everybody's jobs. They ensure transparency. In other words, when you're doing things and a member comes to you and asks you why you're doing such a thing, it's because your board of directors has approved this plan of action. They also help to derail conflict. If you have things written down, it's not just made up as you're going along, it's written down, there's no question. People will say, well, where is that written? Many times they want to see things in black and white. Standing rules are that document. Next. Okay, so if you have questions, please type them into the chat box. And remember to visit, I think we've said this a few times now, the New Jersey PTA Local PTA Resources Hub. It's listed on there's a link on our website, and you can also call our office or contact us, email us at njpta@njpta.org. Thank you.
So I think we answered most of the questions that were in the box. I'll just go over some of the key ones that I think are important. And if anyone else wants to type a question in the box, and then I think Sharon will say a few words, and then we're going to do our door prizes. So one person asked, as far as communications are concerned, how many people are using Member Hub? do the PTAs like and the members like? We've been getting a lot of great reviews on Member Hub. Member Hub over the summer has also updated a lot of their communication tools. So if you haven't used it since we first rolled it out, please take a look at it. They've made emailing so much easier. You can now do attachments. You can now put photos in. You can see who's opened emails, how many people have opened emails. So it is a great tool. Member Hub in general, and if you've not used Member Hub yet for online membership, the Member Hub did some findings last year that PTAs that started using Member Hub with online membership did increase their membership by 15% overall. So that's really cool. One person asked if you can coordinate with other groups such as Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts for drives. The answer is yes. Any organization you can partner with to do an event that is not transferring of funds. So if there's no funds being transferred, they're not using your tax exempt umbrella, there's no reason why you cannot partner with a hospital, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, a company to do any kind of drive, especially during this time. Someone asked a question, which was great. A lot of people talk about the 3-to-1 rule, where you should have 3 events for every 1 fundraising event that you do, and that it's a little hard right now. That is there a problem to do more events for the one fundraising event? And of course, you can do as many events, programs that giving back to the students as possible. The 3-to-1 is not a strong rule, it's just always a recommendation. Someone asked about the difference between credit cards and debit cards. Credit cards are where you should go. Debit cards are highly discouraged, just for reasons that with a credit card, it's a lot easier to, if something were to happen, get the money back. With a debit card, having a PIN being put into the wrong hands, someone could go to an ATM machine and take out money from the PTA, which is a lot harder than with a credit card. Someone asked about budgets, especially during this time. The answer we put in is, at this time, just see what you can do. Plan zeros are okay.
I'm not okay with this.
Zeros are okay in some areas this year, especially if you know the events are not going to happen, but a budget can be changed, as Lori said, at any time during the year. So feel free to, at a meeting in November, a meeting in December, when things may hopefully be for the better, to go back and look at the budget and change things depending on how the year is looking. And then someone asked a question about the secretary doesn't come to the meeting. If the secretary is not at a meeting, the president just at the beginning of the meeting, obviously you probably could ask someone before the meeting starts, just appoint someone to take the notes for that meeting, and then have them coordinate with the regular secretary to make sure the minutes go out. And then a couple of other questions got put in. Do you have sample standing rules, detailed job description? If you go to our resources hub, njpta.com/resources hub, there are more resources for standing rules and for detailed descriptions for each of the positions, including handbooks for each position. You can also, if you just Google PTA standing rules, so many will come up on Google because of PTAs all over the country that have done standing rules. Venmo to accept online purchases like Spiritware. Yes, you can use Venmo. Also, Member Hub Store is available. They've added a lot of fundraising tools as well, which are really cool, and a lot of PTAs have started using them. During COVID, we have not had meetings, so getting 2 signers on each bank reconciliation is challenging. Yes, we've had this question a lot. Just try your best, and as things start opening up and as things hopefully get better, just always go back and make sure that people are going back to just look over the things to make sure they are done. Are we approved to continue voting meeting virtually for this upcoming school year? I know the rules will change. Right now, we've extended it until the end of the summer, so August 30th. The Executive Committee of New Jersey PTA is obviously going to look at that as we move forward, and we will send out notification to make sure everyone is aware of what we're doing. Do we need D&O and general liability insurance? Insurance is not mandatory for PTAs, but it is highly recommended. There is also a page on the Resources Hub before, if you click under treasurer, there's an insurance page. It tells you all the reasons why you should get insurance and gives you links of the company that we recommend that you get insurance from. So you could take a look there. Some PTAs don't need the insurance because their schools cover it, but for the schools that don't cover it, that's something you can look at. And then I think the last question, do you pay for events separately from the Games of Chance account, or do you keep note of the money and then deposit it into the main bank account? For Games of Chance, the Division of Consumer Affairs requires that a separate bank account be used. So all money that is collected for the event goes into that separate account. All the money to pay for that event should come out of that separate account. And then once all the bills are done, once all the money comes in, all the rest of the money can then be moved to your main bank account. And, you know, anytime that you're not doing a Games of Chance or an event that you need a license, you can keep that bank account at a very, you know, if the bank minimum is $100, all you need to keep in there is $100. You don't have to keep money in there when events are not happening. Are we allowed to get a cell phone contract through, let's say, Verizon or AT&T to keep a contract for parents throughout the year so we aren't putting our personal numbers to the public? Yeah, that's something that if you would like to go to your board, go to your membership, and if it goes in your budget, there have been local PTAs that do that. We know some state PTAs do that, but that's a good idea. Also, I recommend if you go to Google Voice, you can get a free phone number on Google Voice where you don't actually have to have it on a phone, or you can download the app on your phone, and you can text people and call people through the computer or through that app where it wouldn't go through your personal number. And is there a merchant service provider recommended? You can use any. We have a couple on our website, but Member Hub has merchant services now. So that's one that we obviously highly recommend. And Sharon, I think that's it right now. If you wanted to say anything before we did the raffle.
I think this is Kathy. Sharon's internet went out.
Okay.
So I just, on behalf of all of us before the raffle, I want to say thank you very much for completing your training. And again, if there's anything else we can do for you, please do not hesitate to contact the office or any one of us on your PTA field service team.
Okay, so hopefully you all can see the wheel. So I put everyone's name on the wheel. We are giving out 2 prizes. Must be present to attend. So a couple of people have snuck out already, so they're out if they win. Our first prize is going to be a $25 gift card to our PTA store, shoppta.org. We'll send you a virtual gift card that you can use. So the first winner is going to be Kelly Anchor. So Kelly, if you could put your email in the chat box, and I will make sure we get that made for your PTA. Congratulations. And then the final prize is going to be, because we are going to have our in-person 2021 convention. It will be at the Delta Hotel in Woodbridge. We are offering 1-night hotel room plus full convention registration, and we'll send you obviously information on that as we get closer. So the winner of that one is Chapter. So congratulations. So if you could put your email in the chat box as well, or we'll look it up, and as we get closer to the convention, we will do it. And just a reminder that, just a reminder that we will be sending out the PowerPoint and the recording. Sharon's back, so I'm going to let Sharon say goodbye. And that's it.
Thank you, Rob. So I just want to remind everybody that if if you need your questions answered immediately, please reach out to our office. Rob's there and Addie's there. They are there Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Their number there is 609-587-0100, and they can answer any questions that you may have. Don't forget that registration is now open for our first virtual convention this year. The convention is free. So please log on. There's going to be some great workshops that we have. So you can go over onto the website and get some more information about that. Kathy, did you want to say something before we close out?
Yeah, Kathy said goodbye, Sharon. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, without further ado, we'll let you guys go. Thank you again for logging on. And if you have any questions, please come on the chat on Monday at 10 o'clock. And we'll have field service there. We'll have other people there that can answer your questions. Okay. Thank you again. And you guys have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
Good night,
Bye,
everyone.
Thank you. How do we get out of here?